Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name's Angel and today we're going to be recapping my reading 31 books in 31 days challenge that I did in August. This challenge was a grind to the end for me. Normally I do like very well keeping a book a day pace, but this month things kind of got away from me a little bit near the beginning. I fell behind for one day and then went on vacation, fell behind a little bit more. And by the last day I had to read 4 books in one day to finish this challenge, but I did it. So also, I haven't done the math yet because I honestly haven't been putting all these into Storygraph as I've read them right away, but I'm pretty sure I'm already now at my reading goal for the year, which was 150 bucks. I think we're already there, to be honest. But we're gonna start recapping these. I did do 10 books digitally. I have all the names written here so I don't forget any. I did 10 digital ones and then 21 physical books. Because the big goal of this challenge was to get as many physical books off my TBR as I possibly could. If you guys have watched my September TBR now, I had I'm not even kidding, maybe 9 books from physical TBR. That's it. Did I just do a humongous birthday book haul? Yes. Yes, I did. But that's besides the point. The point was at one point in time, it was almost done. I'm also not probably gonna go too in-depth with all these because I feel like if you guys want in-depth thoughts of all these books, they are in my weekly reading vlogs. I did for this whole challenge. I went week by week, and the last 3 days I actually did its own video for because I read 6 books in that time span. So every single vlog has a detailed thought of all the books I read, how it felt while I was reading them, after the fact, and their rating. This is gonna be so rapid fire because with 31 books, I don't know, this video is gonna be super long, so we're trying to cut it down as much as we can. So I'm gonna stop yapping now. I think we're gonna do physical books first. The first one I read was The Color Purple by Alice Walker. I wanted to read this because I've heard really good things about the movie and I wanted to watch that. And I'm one of the people where I don't watch the movie if I haven't read the book, you know? This one I think I gave a 3.75 and it's really interesting. I don't really know because the way it's laid out, you think it would read super quickly, and I actually read it quite slowly, this one, compared to how my pacing of other books I read. The entire book, there's no chapters. It's set up by letters. So it literally starts the first whole half of the book is to God. So it goes Dear God, and it's a letter. This is one here, and they're normally pretty short. The page before, it's a 2-pager. So the way it's laid out, you'd think it would read super fast, but I'm not sure the language or the subject we're dealing with, but I found myself reading this one a little bit slower than my normal reading pace. I did enjoy it, but not as much as I hoped I would. I think I gave it a 3.75. Then I read Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater, and this one I think I read literally between 11 p.m. and 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm pretty sure it's how this day went. I gave it a 3-star overall. It wasn't bad. I honestly don't know if I'll read the rest of this series. I think I'd like to give at least a second book a try to see, or maybe even just rereading this book and see if it was just the circumstance in which I read it that affected my rating and my comprehension of it, or if I really just wasn't that interested. You know, one of those situations. Then I read The Push, and this one was a very I don't want to say pleasant surprise, it's kind of twisted, but just a surprise for me. And since I gave this one a 4.5, I loved this book, but when I went in, when I had seen somebody talk about it, they're oh, it's about motherhood. And so that was a literary fiction about motherhood. It's not the case. This is Verity by Colleen Hoover. If you've read that, this is about it's very psychological, mother that's kind of going a little crazy, twisted children potentially. It's very, very interesting, and I binged this book I think within 2-3 hours max. I do read more by this author now, and I was kind of confused too because I didn't know what it was going into, if it was a thriller or literary, because I swear The Whispers, the book up here that they blurb, is thriller, but then it's blurbed on the back by Lisa Jewell, who's a thriller author, and Kristen Hanna, who's my favorite historic literary authors. So I was I don't know what this is. So I went to this book completely blind. Then I read Addicted After All, and what's sad about this book is I read this in the beginning of the month, and I honestly could not tell you many of the plot points of this without skimming it. As I feel this whole series is, it gets kind of a little bit repetitive, and it does get a little, I don't want to say boring, but the thing is these books, how they do the different timelines is instead of there's books about Lillian Lowe, Rose and Connor, Daisy and Reich, and instead of doing it where they're all individual stories, it's the first Rose and Connor and Daisy and Reich book all happened at the same time as Thrive, which was a Lillian Lowe book. So it's you just kind of get that same story repeated, and I feel when that happens, I'm kind of losing track of what happens in what book. I know what's happened through the entire journey, but I don't really know what happens in what book, because I read 2 addicted books this month. I read this one and Feel the Fire, which is the second Rose and Connor book, and truth be told, I'm kind of having a hard time differentiating. I do know I gave it a 3.75 to start off with though, so we'll go with that. Then I read Margot's Got Money Troubles. This one I thought was a really interesting one. I gave it a 4-star. This is pretty much about a girl in college who ends up getting pregnant unexpectedly. She has this child and is struggling to make money and make ends meet, and so she decides to pursue some online work, and it's not digital marketing or social media. I guess it's a form of social media. I don't want to say it on here to get flagged, but does some online work, if you know what I'm saying. I just felt like her journey with that, and I just found it really, really interesting. I listened to it as an audiobook. I found it really fun. So yeah, this one 4 stars. And coming on to that next addictive book, I read Through the Fire. This one I did give a 4-star too. This is the second Rose and Connor book, and Rose and Connor are probably my favorite couple. There's a chance Reich and Daisy could be if there wasn't the age gap that existed at the beginning of the series. This one I also gave a 4-star too, and the main thing that just stuck out for me with this book is that the ending resolution of this book was so good. And I honestly think that might be up to like a 4.25 or 4.5, but based on how the first Rose and Connor book ended and how this one ended, this is just like such an amazing, you can't even say the redemption arc, but just like it healed the trauma from that one, you know? And it was just amazing. Then I read The Love Wager by Lynn Painter, and this one I gave a 3.52. The main problem I had this one that I touched on in the reading vlogs was that sometimes I feel like romance books have a conflict just to have a conflict. You know, like this one, it literally happened for the last 30 pages of the book, and it was resolved in 10. I'm like, so there wasn't a need for that. Like, truthfully, we could have just been happy and not have done that. It's like a fun little premise, pretty much like they have one night stand, then decide to take dating more seriously, but not with each other. They go on dating apps, and the whole thing is like they plan their dates at the same restaurant, and if things go badly, they go get tacos together afterwards. So they're pretty much dating anyways. I did say I would give Lynn Painter another shot. I'm grabbing one of her books, I believe, Better Than the Movies, because I know the sequel's coming up for that soon. I'll give that one a try. I thought it doesn't really stick with me. I'll probably be not done with Lynn Painter, but like I won't be like buying her books physically anymore. I read Distant Shores by Kristen Hanna, and this one is one that I went into, and it's not one of Kristen Hanna's like historical fictions, which is what I fell in love with her writing for. It is a literary fiction, and the one thing I keep telling people that I think is so funny is it's called Distant Shores. I thought it was like, I don't know, a place or something. It's called Distant Shores because their last name is Shores, and like they're breaking up and distancing. So I really need to know. It's like a marriage in crisis, dealing with that when also having children involved, work, all that stuff. So definitely, it was interesting. Not my favorite piece of work by her, but it's probably at least a 3.75 still. I read a novel Love Story by Ashley Poston. I've seen a lot of people say it's like a 3 or 5 star. There's no in between. A lot of people weren't the biggest fan of it. I gave it a 4. I thought it was really cute. What kind of already, pretty much this one, she's on a road trip and randomly, I think it's like a storm happens, and all of a sudden she's in like her favorite town from her favorite romance series. Pretty much like if I woke up in Chestnut Springs. That's what this is. And I will say, it was probably around like a 3.5, 3.75, but then the ending and the reveal of who the man is really made it up for me and made it a 4 star. I just thought it was like really heartwarming and I enjoyed it. So Ashley Poston wins again. I will keep reading her works. I honestly, she's just like I say this almost like a cozy author. That's how I feel. Does that make sense? Then we have He Who Drowned the World. This was also a 4 star, and this one I feel like could have been higher if I hadn't read it like on audio over the span of like 2 weeks. You know, because She Who Became the Sun, I think I gave a 4.5 or 4.75. I really, really enjoyed that. And I did enjoy this as well, but I feel like just because I dragged it out so much, like I remember being like, oh, this book is really dragging. No, it's not, babe. You're listening to a chapter a day. That's why it's dragging. You're not listening to it. So I don't feel like my thought's really valid. I hate saying that. If I just taken my time, if I just read it physically, it probably would have been higher, you know? Then we have The Lost Story by Meg Schaefer, and this one was pleasantly surprising for me because I don't know why I'm saying pleasantly surprised, because I did enjoy The Wishing Game when I read it, but this one I went into thinking it was gonna be kind of like almost like a little bit childish, but that it was, and that was the best part of it. Like this book gave me the same feelings I had when I first read like Narnia when I was a kid and all that stuff. Like it kind of reminded me why I love reading like the books that got me into reading. 4.75. This was at this point the closest I'd gotten to a 5 star in this entire challenge, which I did not expect. And pretty much in this one, it is, I kind of forget like all the main details. Pretty much these 2 boys had gone missing a while back, had been found like I think like 6 years were better than they've been left. Like they were like in pristine condition, doing great. And now pretty much when people go missing, you can hire this like one boy and they will find this person like instantly for you. And everybody's like, so our main character hires him to find her sister. She went missing in the same woods as you, like however long ago, and they go together to try to find her. It was just magical. Please read it. I honestly kind of reread this, maybe annotate it, who knows. Then I read Hellbent. This is the sequel to Ninth House, and if you guys know, Ninth House for me was a 5 star, but very unexpected in the sense that that book I was so lost till about halfway through, and then things started making sense for me. But it was like I was reading gibberish for the first little bit. This one was a lot easier to get into because you already know the world, the characters, what's going on, so you weren't as lost. You weren't lost at all in the beginning. It was kind of nice, but the thing was when I finished this, I was like, oh, I'm so torn if it's a 4.75 or a 5 star, and I kept going back and forth for like so long, and then I sat there and I was like, if I'm still going back and forth between I'm like, if a week later I'm still not like, oh, it's a 5-star, I'm like, then it's not one. And I'm trying to make it one, you know? So I think it's a 4.75, but I did really, really enjoy it. Then I read Trial of the Sun Queen, and this book is your sign that if you read a book once before, maybe give it a second chance. If you think like the circumstances weren't ideal, kind of like what I was saying with Half a Soul. I read this book last year during a reading 7 books in 7 days challenge while I had COVID. And I given it a 3-star to begin with. I just don't think I was really into it at the moment. I reread it now and it's a 4.5. So that shows you that like time can change, but also just like if you put yourself in a situation, maybe you'll think differently of it. Does that make sense? Give it a second and fair shot is what I'm saying. Then read The Mystery of Time, and this one was 4 stars. And what I find so funny with this book is the best way I can describe this to you is it's nothing like the correlation my brain makes that's not exactly how this goes at all is, you know, like is it The Mystery of Time? Is that what it's called in there too? Is that what I'm thinking of it? Whatever that thing is in Loki, like the time, I think it is called Mystery of Time or something like that, or the Time Ministry. Whatever that is in Loki, that's like what I imagined while reading this. And it wasn't that, but that's what I thought of. And that's all I need to tell you about this book. Then because I enjoyed Trial of the Sun Queen so much, I went right into Rule of the Aurora King, which was a 3.75. I liked this one a little bit less than the first, but still more than I enjoyed the first one the first time I read it. I just have the 3rd book of this as an e-copy that I will be reading, and then I know the 4th book is coming out shortly. So I think I'm going to commit to the whole series this time. Then we have One for My Enemy, which is a 4-star. I've wanted to read this book for a while, but I kept putting it off because it wasn't out in paperback yet. And the main thing I love about, that's not the main thing. The one thing I really love about Olivia Blake's work is that she has these like beautiful pieces of art in all her books. Like nobody else still has pictures in their books anymore. And these are like just stunning. And they're also pretty. And it's like at the beginning of like every like act in her books. And I love them. Then we had Daisy Hates the Great Undoing, and this is the exact same thing as Hellbent, where I finished this. I think the thing was, I remember how I felt at the end of The Long Way Home, and that was a 5-star book for me. And I read this, and I remember being like, oh my god, like that's like devastating. And I think I wanted to have the same feeling I had in that one, but I just didn't. I don't know why. Even like now I keep saying it, like I'm not sure what it was about that one that like just did it in for me, but the other ones didn't really come close, like have that same effect on me. So the same thing where I'm like, is it a 4.5? Is it a 4.75 or is it a 5? And I was like, it's 4.75. Because if it was a 5-star, I'd know. Like I knew that one. Then I read Chain of Gold, which is the first book in the Last Hours trilogy by Cassandra Clare. If you guys know me, I love Cassandra Clare. I love this woman so much. These like just series have become some of my favorites. And this is like the kind of like not follow-up series, but almost like the companion one to Infernal Devices. We're kind of with those characters' kids. And I love being back with those characters so much. It made me so happy. And this is a 4.25. I think as always, like, it's hard to rate the first book in a trilogy super, super, super highly because I know it's going to get better. And they're also doing all the work of like, not really giving you introductions to like the world. So we know the world, but like the people that we're now dealing with in this series. Then I read The Reappearance of Rachel Price. This was a 4-star. I did really enjoy this one, but like I said already in the weekly vlog of this, was that pretty much the problem with this one for me was not that I didn't even enjoy the ending, but it's just like not the ending. Like in my head, the ending could have gone so many different ways. And when it went that way, I was kind of like, oh, you know, that was a choice. It's not like I didn't enjoy it because it was like a good way to wrap it up. Just it's nothing that I really thought of, but not because I didn't think of it because it was so good, but because I didn't think about it because I was almost like, oh, okay. That wasn't even English. So if you understood that, if you didn't, sorry. Then I read Night Road by Kristen Hanna. This is another one by her that like, it's not historical, but this one I loved. It gave me kind of the same vibes as Reminders of Him, but also not, but kind of yeah, because it also deals with a woman getting out of prison and trying to rekindle a relationship with her child in some sorts. Pretty much in this one, our main character goes out for a party with her best friend and her best friend's brother, who is her boyfriend. He's supposed to drive, he ends up drinking. She's had the least amount to drink, so she drives home, they get in an accident, kill her best friend. It is tragic, it is beautiful, and this one definitely is like high up there now with my Kristen Hanna books. I'm not sure if it's a 4.5 or 4.75, but I really enjoyed it. And last physical books was Magnolia Park's Into the Dark. Same thing as long as The Great Undoing. This is a 4.75, and I don't know what the ending of The Long Way Home did to me, but it just messed me up. And that's why it was a 5-star. That's my favorite of this series so far. And I've heard this one I was gonna cry, it was me super gutted. And like, was I sad? Yes. Did I cry? No. And I gave it a 4.75. Still very, very, very good, but I'm really excited to see almost like how they laid this out, how the next 2 Daisy Hates books are gonna go. Because the last Magnolia book, there's still 2 more Daisy Hates apparently, so we'll see. Now on to all the digital books I read. So the first one was How to End a Love Story. I gave that one 3-star, and pretty much the problem with this one for me is that I tell the stories, I think it's so funny. First time was I was reading this book, lying down, I fell asleep. I woke up and I was 14 Kobo pages into the chapter of this book. If you guys know, Kobo pages are not actual pages. It's just like how much can fit on their screen. So it's probably more like 7 pages of this actual book. And I remember when I was falling asleep, there wasn't anything about like, oh, you know, they're starting to get into each other. I see like some like hints being dropped. It all seemed very like platonic and friendly to me still. And then all of a sudden I wake up and they're like confessing their love and they're like going at it. And I'm like, hold on a second. I fell asleep 7 pages ago and y'all were chilling. So it definitely was just like a very 0 to 100, I felt like. And then there was just like, I'm not even kidding, every single chapter in the middle of the book was just spice. And I was like, I love me some spice. Give me a break. Let me breathe a little bit, you know? So that one I just felt like it was 0 to 100. It wasn't very believable. And then, yeah, I don't know. I still gave it a 3 though. So the premise is very interesting. And there, in My Dreams I Hold a Knife, I give this one a 4-star. This one's really cool in the sense that it's kind of like a murder mystery whodunit. Pretty much when they were all in college, the one girl, Heather, got, then pretty much her older brother calls like a reunion for them to all get together. And then like when they're there is like, hey, I know one of you guys did it, like let's fess up. And really random, pretty much. And they also like confessing what they did that night and they figure out who did it. And They Were Never Lie by Freida McFadden. I gave this one a 3.5 star because the thing is, while I was reading it, I found it like interesting. And I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. Now, like after the fact, like I haven't thought about it once I put it down. Like literally have not thought about it once until I started like thinking about what it was in the book so I can film this video. That's about it. It's kind of like 2 timelines. This like, it's the house. They want to buy a house. They're going to showing of this house. But it's like this awful storm and they get stuck there overnight with no reception. And it's the house of a therapist who's gone missing for like 2 years, I think. And now it's kind of like a then and now timeline where it's like them in the house now and then her in sessions with previous clients before. Interesting premise, haven't really thought about it since. And then Before I Let Go was a 4.25. It kind of was the same vibes as Distant Shores, but not really quite, just in the sense that it was also like a marriage in crisis and there were kids involved. But pretty much these guys, they're like partners in a business. They still do their business really well together. They try their best to co-parent and they're both kind of like navigating dating again and dating other people. And it's very interesting. It was heartwarming and I loved it. I think it's a 4.25. Then I finally read Mistborn or The Final Empire and it was a 4.5. This one I say, you hear about Brandon Sanderson's writing and then you read it for yourself and you're like, okay, I see what you did there. So much so that I literally bought like the entire Mistborn OG trilogy and Wax and Wayne for my birthday. It's gonna be my birthday book haul coming up. I love this man's writing. Will I say, was that ending bold? Yes. I did not see the ending coming and I'm like, anyways, that sound. But so pretty much like he doesn't shy away. And now it's like, I'm so intrigued by his writing because I know he does not shy away from the hard things. And I'm like, okay, wait a second. So I'm really kind of excited to see where the rest of this trilogy already goes because that book was magnificent. I'd give it a 4.5. And it was one of those things where I just don't know why it wasn't higher, but like I didn't get 5-star feelings while reading it, but like I was engrossed. I loved it. Then I read The Alice Network, which is a 4.25. And I don't even want to touch on this book much more because I feel so bad. I do want to try rereading it. But the thing was, I think when I read it, I just kept comparing it to The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. If you guys know, The Nightingale is like a 6-star read for me. I love it so much. And it's kind of the same thing, like women during the war working in like spy, like it's kind of the same thing. It's like women in the war, like working as spies. And it was so interesting, but I just kept ruining it and comparing it to a book that I shouldn't have been comparing it to. And that was my own bad. So read it, don't compare it to The Nightingale. I read You'd Be Home Now, which is like Kathleen. I was thinking if it's Kathleen Glasgow or Glasgow. But anyways, it's my first book by her. I give it a 4.5. And that one for me was just like, it took me so off guard because I've been very terrified to read her books. I know they touch on like super heavy topics. What I loved about this one was that it touched on like, not just addiction and how it affects the individual, but also addiction and how it affects everybody in that individual's life. And also like the complexities of it. And it was just like, I read it and I was like it felt very real. And that's like one thing, like I feel like normally you read fiction to escape, and this is not a form of escapism at all. This is a form of like, oh, this is real life. This is happening. Not even this could happen. This is happening to people all around the world. And it's one of those ones that comes like, and now and read all her other books. So we buy in the box set probably. And then with The American Roommate Experiment, this was a 3.5. It was one of those ones where I don't know why rom-coms have not been hitting for me lately, but pretty much I read it and I was like, oh, okay, it's kind of fun. And I just like never thought about it again. I cannot tell you the main characters' names. I couldn't. I know the premise of it was pretty much she goes to her friend's house, her apartment floods, she goes to her friend's to stay the night. Her like cousin shows up and is like, oh, I'm staying here tonight. And they end up being like roommates for the time being. But like, did it stick with me? No. But it was a fun read while I was reading it. Didn't stick with me much. Then I read Oodie by Freida McFadden, and this one honestly I think is like probably one of my favorite Freida McFadden books to date. I wonder if it's 3.75 or 4, but the problem is because I always just try to rationalize Frida's writing and you can't do that. There's always gonna be like some sort of like plot holes you kind of have to like ignore and just like let be. Pretty much this one, it's like she is a med student and has to spend 12 hours overnight in like a very, very like high I don't know, high intensity, I don't know, like psych ward. Like there's like locks in every single door. Certain patients are let out of their rooms. Like it's very much like tight knit, Fort Knox, can't get out. And she'll spend 12 hours there. And then the last book I read, you guys probably listening to this and you're like, wow, Angel, every single book you read this month, the lowest is a 3-star and highest is a 4.75. I finally got a 5-star book. And on the last day, I finally got a 5-star. I feel like every single book I read in this challenge, none of them were bad, but none of them were like 5 stars, except for this one, and that was Yellow Face by R.F. Kuang. Listen here, I love my girl R.F. Kuang, okay? But pretty much I was scared to read this because it wasn't a fantasy by her. And I was like, I'm gonna like it if it's not fantasy. I loved it. And I love how she writes such good morally gray characters no matter what genre she's writing. Because our main character, June, I despised her. Okay, she was the worst human being probably ever, to be honest. And literally I like, the whole video was like, no. But it was so interesting. It just like definitely dealt with like morality and race in like such an amazing way. And I just like, I read it, I was like, instantly I want to reread you. I want to get a physical copy, highlight the heck out of you, and that's it. So that clearly wasn't the last book I read, because I did read Into the Dark afterwards, but literally the second last book I read this entire challenge, I finally got a 5-star. I'm not gonna pick all these back up because they're on the floor and there's 21 of them, but that is the wrap up for August. Took me a while, I'm so sorry this video is so long, but I read a lot of books. I'll be doing this challenge again maybe next year at some point. I did it August of last year and then February and then again in August. Maybe I'll do it in February again, who knows? But I definitely think now I'm gonna be doing more of a chill September. I haven't even finished a book yet. It's the 8th. Like I've started 2, but I haven't finished one yet. So I think I'm just in September this month, I'm gonna take a lot chiller for reading month. Maybe some mood reading vlogs, maybe. But just take it like easy after this month, because the month was a little bit draining. I had a lot of fun, but it also was like, not that made reading not fun, but it was like I was reading to get something done, not just reading to read a book. So I'm excited to get back into that for a little bit. But so if you guys want to check out my mood reading vlog coming out this week, or see my birthday book haul of about 20+ books, you guys should like, comment, subscribe, hang out for more fun. As always, I'm on TikTok at Angel's Book Corner as well, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye. Oh no! Yeah, I just dropped some books. They're all okay though. Yeah.